Well, I am very excited to be on today. We've been doing a lot of virtual meetings here recently at the CEP, and as a way to communicate with our business community. So thank you for letting me be a part, Sonda, and I'm excited to talk about actually some really good things that are going on in our community. What's going on up until COVID-19. We've got some good information in this presentation. I'm going to talk about two new initiatives that the CEP has just kicked off that we think we were in the process of doing anyways, but they really are timely with where we are today. And then share some additional information on our response, leading businesses through this period, and some really good numbers and some new programs that are coming down the pike. So with that, let's talk about population. I think this is the first time I've had a chance to share these latest numbers. So as of June 30th, 2019, the population of the Ocala Metro, and if you're not familiar with that term, that is simply Marion County. We are a one-county metro as determined by the U.S. Department of Commerce, but the Ocala Metro's population was 365,579. We just got that number in March, mid-March. And what it tells us is, one, that the Ocala Metro grew by 1.8% over the last year. That's more than 125 people a week. We ranked as the 26th fastest growing metro by rate in the nation. So out of 400 metros, the Ocala Metro was one of the fastest growing. And as we look at other Florida communities, we really ranked very, very well compared to Tampa or Jacksonville or Orlando. Our growth rate was equal to or exceeded all of those communities. And so know that people are continuing to move here and that we're continuing to see good growth. And that's important because you have to, as a community, continue to grow. There are only two options. You're growing or you're dying. And this lets us know that our community is continuing to grow. The projection has been that we will reach 400,000 people by 2023. That had been moved up. It was 2025. It would be late 2023 when we see that. And we'll really get a sense of how all of this pandemic is going to impact that here over the next several weeks. But I would point out, we're still seeing home building construction. I think the very low numbers of COVID-19 infections and death and serious implications is really going to become a key. I think people in the future are going to look at what communities were negatively impacted by this pandemic. And that's going to be part of what people look at when they're looking to move. It's not just going to be about ideas about housing and schools and employment, but also about how resilient that community is in a crisis like this. And I think we're going to be in a very good position as a community. Thinking more about those numbers, earlier in January, U-Haul came out with their list of the top 25 cities for growth in the nation based on one-way moves, and Ocala ranked number 3. We were third metro in the nation for people moving with U-Haul. Florida was ranked number 1, and then Ocala was ranked the 3rd of all metros. And as we think about that, why is that important? Well, I think if you ask the question, who moves using U-Haul, the answer is young people. And we can see that then backed up with some numbers from Avalanche Consulting that our millennial population, ages 25 to 34, grew by 15.8% from 2012 to 2017. That was double the national average and among the highest of all small and mid-sized metros in the country. So we're continuing to see our community grow. We're very thankful and enjoy having our retiree population, but know this, we're growing lots of young people, young professionals, and we're going to see that in young families into the future. In case you're unfamiliar, I started talking about our community, but I guess I need to make sure with this audience, you know who the CEP is. Technically, our name is the Ocala Marion County Chamber and Economic Partnership. That's a really long name, so we go by CEP. We're your Chamber of Commerce, and we're also your economic development organization. Our mission is to be the catalyst for a prosperous community by seeking to create and retain jobs, providing a positive return on investment for our partners. Here at the CEP, we don't have members, we have partners. Businesses, over 1,500 of them are invested in making sure that the CEP is that catalyst. And we seek to implement this mission in 5 key areas: business advocacy, business attraction. So business advocacy is working with local governments and state government. Business attraction is our work in bringing in new primary employers. Business creation is our work in entrepreneurship, both with our power plant business incubator and in the other programs that we do to help encourage small businesses. And we're going to talk a lot about that in just a little bit. Business retention, working with our existing companies, making sure the companies that are here can be successful. And we're doing a lot of work in that, obviously in response to COVID-19. And then business services. You may be familiar with our very popular leadership programs, a lot of our education and networking events. But I'm really going to focus on those three middle ones today. Lastly, just some other goals. The CEP has a 5-year strategic plan. We are now in year 4 of that plan. It involves lots of different things, talent development, working with schools, and our equine initiative. But there are 3 big goals that are part of that. And that's that we will announce the impact creation of 4,500 new jobs in our community, that those jobs on average will pay wages that are, it says 16, should be 15% higher than the county average wage, and result in a direct capital investment in our community of $400 million. And we'll talk about how we're doing on that at the end. Well, if you look at the Ocala Metro and our economy, what drives our economy, and this is important for all of you as you're thinking about your business, there are really 4 key areas. Manufacturing. We are a manufacturing hub, especially here for the state of Florida. And let me share some really good news for you why that's important. In fact, both with manufacturing and logistics. We've been talking a lot recently. You've seen a lot of the new companies are logistics related, whether that is the McLean Distribution Center or FedEx or the new 1.7 million square foot Dollar Tree Distribution Center, or a really well-known company that has leased the Red Rock Spec building that's under construction by the interstate that I'm not allowed to say still, but the name rhymes or sounds an awful lot like a river in South America. So hopefully you know who that company is. But why manufacturing logistics are so important and why that's important right now. As we look at these companies in these areas, we've been very intentional here in the community over the last few years to attract and grow primary employers who would be what we call anti-cyclical or recession-proof, companies that would do well if things got difficult. And what we're seeing today as a result of that is a tremendous amount of growth in manufacturing and logistics, even in this current environment. We'll talk a little bit. The CEP is maintaining a page on our homepage at ocalicep.com that lists over 40 businesses who are currently hiring, and almost all of them fall into that manufacturing logistics front. I was talking to the CEO of one of our manufacturing companies on Friday, yesterday, and he told me that their sales are up 25%. So even though things are difficult for a lot of businesses, part of what we know happens is that it's going to be better for others. And so this is really going to provide some stability to our community and actually a platform for growth as we come through this crisis. But manufacturing is very important. Logistics, equine, we're the horse capital of the world. Tremendous amount going on with equine. The World Equestrian Center is still rapidly moving to fruition. Their first events will be this fall with their grand opening in January of 2021. Really, really key what's happening in equine. But the last area is healthcare. That is our largest employer. They pay significant wages, and it is a huge portion of our economy. And I think we're really appreciating how significant a portion of our economy it is right now. And so we began looking at that recently at the CEP and thinking, man, we have staff and program dedicated to growing all of these, manufacturing, logistics, and equine, but we don't have anything with healthcare. So we started thinking about that and looking at additional data. As we look at our primary employers, Advent Health, Ocala Health, and Encompass Health, those 3 primary hospitals plus the rehab hospital, they have now invested more than $500 million in expansion of new programs, new services, new rooms, new facilities in our community. And that's really key. And as we are looking at the 24,000 people who work in that area, we know that this is an area for which to build. Also kind of related to that is we're able to announce late last year, and you're going to see probably in another 2 months work begin on this project, that GTI, a Chicago-based company that's publicly traded in Canada on the Toronto Stock Exchange, that through an affiliate they had purchased the former and abandoned Mark III facility along the interstate, and that this company was looking at revamping this facility. In fact, when their first phase, they're going to start with tearing down the 2 most southern buildings and then renovating and building new First phase will create over 100 new jobs, very generous benefits, more than $20 million of capital investment. We think over the next couple of years, as all three phases are built out, they'll end up with more than 250 jobs, probably about a $60 million capital investment. Well, what does this have to do with healthcare? GTI is one of the largest cultivators and processors and distributors of medical cannabis. And so that is a key piece that relates to the healthcare portion of our economy. And it is, again, a portion that we believe will be very anti-cyclical. Doesn't really matter what happens during the economy, if there's a recession, if there's a pandemic, but this is an area that's going to continue to do very well, which is good for our community. I referenced this a minute ago. Unemployment numbers, and I forgot I didn't update it on this screen. Our current unemployment rate as of yesterday was 5.4%. We do expect that to go up, obviously. Know this, we don't believe our number is going to go up as high as what we're seeing in other portions of the state. That doesn't mean that there's not hurt and pain, but we are less reliant on the hospitality sector compared to other Florida communities. And so we think there's going to be some moderating factors there. But through February 2020, we ranked 32 of all metros in the nation in job growth, and that came from Moody's. You can see those numbers on there. Again, healthcare is a significant portion of that employment base. So what are we doing in healthcare? This slide says we're hiring a director of healthcare development. We've done it. She just started this past week. Erin Jones, who some of you may be familiar with, is a fantastic addition for our team. She's going to be leading our healthcare development initiative. It's really going to be focused on three key areas. Coordination amongst all of our different healthcare partners. One of the advantages of the CEP is that we're a great neutral territory, and we can bring everyone around the table and talk about what are ways for better coordination. Where are there gaps, and how can we help fill those gaps? An area that we already had on here, and I think we're going to see become more important now, is recruitment. Erin's background in healthcare, and in particular in the pharmacology, but as we're looking at what are things going to look like post-COVID-19, we really think nationwide you're going to see a regionalization, a rebalancing of supply chain. And that's going to hit every single area. We think that's going to be especially true in healthcare, that the idea that a company can simply have a facility in New York or Atlanta or Dallas and service the entire nation is probably not going to continue to work. We've seen the challenges with that. And so we think there's a real opportunity to, the companies are going to go to smaller supply chain but more facilities across the country. And if you're going to be in Florida, you're going to have a facility in Florida. The unique nature of our peninsula and the 22 million people who live here. And that really puts the Ocala market in an excellent spot. And often when we think of supply chain, we're thinking about distribution and logistics, and that's key. But think of some of the other things. On the healthcare side, think of pharmacy. Think of other centralized services that could be delivered on a regional basis that would be much more successful. We really are working very hard to make sure that we're ready as soon as we begin coming out of this current pandemic, that we're ready to go market and sell our community to different healthcare related industries. The other piece with that, and it fits very, very well, is we think a lot of companies are going to be rethinking the idea of manufacturing, in particular in China. And they're going to be looking at how they can reshore. Again, we think instead of them coming and building one or two huge facilities, they're probably going to break that up into smaller facilities. And again, we think because of our excellence in manufacturing in this community, because we're here in Florida, because of our ability to access markets, we're going to be a really attractive place for that. And then the last area where Erin's going to be really working is in the area of workforce, and really working with our school partners, whether that's K-12, Marion County Public Schools, Marion Technical College, College of Central Florida, Rasmussen, Taylor, and looking at our career ladders. Where are we training in healthcare? Where are there gaps? Where are we not creating that seamless career ladder? And really partnering with all of them so that we can produce the most beneficial career tracks for our community. This is something I'm very excited about, and some new things going on. And this is our impact initiative. I talked earlier that we're very involved in entrepreneurship. We have the Power Pilot Business Incubator. We're the chapter host for 1 Million Cups, and 1 Million Cups Ocala is one of the most successful 1 Million Cups chapters in the country. We do these business plan competition. We assist over 150 entrepreneurs every year. But our impact initiative is really aimed at being able to impact 3 communities, West Ocala, Silver Spring Shores, and Marion Oaks, through entrepreneurship. And so this is an area, we've recently just hired Ms. Sherrietta Prince, who's leading this effort for us. And we're starting to see some really cool things happen. So on here you'll see Truist Bank, which is the merger of BB&T and SunTrust, has become the presenting sponsor. They made a significant gift to our foundation to fund this initiative. We've also received a couple of other gifts that allow us to expand this program. We're going to be rolling out, we'd hope to already be rolling it out now, but the pandemic has slowed us down a little bit. We've had to pivot, but we're going to be focusing on diverse small business enterprise certifications. These are programs aimed at businesses in these communities to help them qualify for both City of Ocala and then eventually Marion County set-aside contracts. Also to allow them to begin doing some matchmaking with local employers who need local supply chain. We're partnering with Prospera to do Spanish language seminars. And we've got some very exciting new things coming down the pike. I'll go ahead and tease it here. I have paperwork on my desk right now that I was just reviewing before we started this seminar, looking at being able to start a micro enterprise, zero interest forgivable loan for businesses in Silver Spring Shores and Marion Oaks. We hope to be able to roll that out in the next month, but very, very excited about that partnership. Again, you'll be hearing more about that in the coming days. So really looking at how do we use entrepreneurship to impact our community? How do we help entrepreneurs get started? How do we help them be aware of the resources? And that's really everyone can be an entrepreneur. There are opportunities. And we think, again, coming out of this, obviously there are a lot of our small businesses which are going to be struggling coming out of this pandemic, but we're working very hard to put resources together to assist them. A big piece of this is our entrepreneurship staff. With that in mind, the CEP for the last month, our #1 focus has been on how do we help our businesses through this pandemic. And so we've got 2 resources on here that I want to talk about. I'm going to go to the second one first, and that's at ocalacep.com, COVID-19-updates. This is a constantly updated site of nothing but resources for businesses to help deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. We have done and are averaging about 5 webinars a week, all related to issues for businesses dealing with this crisis. Everything from cash flow analysis to marketing to mental health. If you're a small business owner, you're seeing all kinds of things happen and you're trying to be strong for everyone, your employees, your family, and your customers. We want to help make sure that you're taking care of your mental health as well. But lots of great webinars. It's amazing as we're looking at the number of people who are participating on our webinars, both live through Zoom and also on Facebook Live. Literally hundreds now to thousands of people who are participating, getting great information. We're putting all those on there. They can go back and watch videos, links, as we get new information on the various aspects of both the CARES program and the Families First Act. We're putting that information out there, updating it so it's available to our businesses to help them be able to access that. But also, when the Paycheck Protection Program was announced on a Friday there at the end of March, we worked very, very quickly to create a campaign called Get, Gather, Go. We knew that it was essential that our businesses be ready. They understand how to fill out the application. They knew what information they needed. We wanted to see our businesses get a higher share of those loans, which, as many know, will become grants if you meet certain requirements. And so I've got some great news. As many of you know, on Thursday, the initial round of funding for the Paycheck Protection Program was exhausted. The federal government, they had loaned out all $342 billion. But we began looking at the numbers for our community, and we're still gathering. But looking at how many loans were made in Florida and the value of those loans, in Marion County, in the Ocala Metro, we should have expected to see about 1,000 loans made here, worth about $210 million. We're still finalizing the data. But this is really, really exciting. What we know is that it looks like somewhere between 2,800 and 3,000 loans were made here. So up to 3 times as many loans as we should have expected to receive here. And it's going to be probably between $285 and $300 million. So 50% above what would be expected. So our businesses in this community did very, very well. They were really ready to submit those applications, had their documentation ready. We were ahead of the pack and ahead of the curve. And really also kudos to our local lenders. They worked incredibly hard. The number of lenders who I spoke to at 11 o'clock at night, on Saturdays, on Easter Sunday, as they were working through, still trying to help and process, is really important. And I think it's why we're seeing our community be so successful. It's always about partnerships, and the lenders really came around and partnered together. Just so you know, moving forward, this next week, we're going to be pivoting in 2 really important things. First off, if you weren't one of these 3,000 businesses who had your Paycheck Protection Program loan approved, we don't want you to get too worried about it just yet. We think there is going to be another round. So you need to be ready to go. Have your application done, have all the support documents, go ahead and work with your bank. Each bank's handling that a little bit different, each lender, but go ahead, have everything done so that when the federal government puts more money into that fund, yours is ready to go. That $200 or $250 billion that we think is going to come will not last long. And so you want to make sure you have everything prepared and ready to go. The other part is for those 2,800 to 3,000 businesses who did get a loan. Congratulations, we're really excited that you got funded. Now, let's start planning today on keys to maximizing your loan forgiveness. We're finalizing some guides right now. We'll do some more webinars about how things you need to start pulling together, thinking about, looking at, so that when we get to June 30th, you're ready, you have good ideas, and we're still waiting for the federal government to give us all the details on how the loan forgiveness is going to work. But I think we all know about 90% of what it's going to look like. But you're ready to go, that you have all that documentation so that that loan becomes a grant. And that's really what we want to see. We want to see all 2,800 to 3,000 of those loans become grants in our community. Just 2 other things I want to mention to you quickly. Know that, man, how grateful are we all right now for our first responders, all of the things they're doing to keep us safe. We think that's really part of the key to why our numbers have been able to be so very manageable here in this community. Big piece of that has been the local 1-cent sales tax. That's coming up for renewal in November. I would just encourage you, we need to renew that. We have to renew that. You're going to be asked to vote yes. Without that, we will not be able to fund the equipment and facilities that our first responders need. It's really key to our future. So lastly, just some numbers. I shared our goals at the CEP. Over the last few years, oops, too far. The CEP in our 5-year program through year 3, we're already at over 4,000 jobs. I can tell you with the new projects that have been announced, we're going to be well in excess of that 4,500 before the end of this year. And that over the last 5 years, we're now looking at a number, last 7 years, in excess of 8,000 new jobs. The wages from those jobs are higher than the county average. We're looking at capital investment in our community of over $900 million. Why does that matter? Whatever your business is, as we continue to grow as a community, that creates more opportunity for you. As no matter what you're doing, that creates more resources that are going to be available to you. And so here at the CEP, we're working very hard to make sure you have all of the resources available, really with entrepreneurship, regardless of where you are in our community. Very excited about the new programs focused on West Ocala, Marion Oaks, and Silver Spring Shores, and in healthcare. We really want to be known in the coming years, not just as a logistics hub, not just as a manufacturing hub, not just as a horse capital, but really the Center for Healthcare Excellence, a place where healthcare businesses grow and are incredibly successful, not only in the state of Florida, but really for our country. And with that,